Greetings everyone, Slizzle466 here, and in today's video, we're going to be looking at a full wild crafting guide for the current Darkmoon Faire expansion. Now, I'm only going to be covering epic and legendary cards, as well as decks that are in most meta reports, so you're not going to see some of the fringe decks that are out there. This is also based on my opinion, and there are some decks that you're not going to see crafting information for. To give a couple of examples, Reno Quest Mage, Dead Man's Hand Warrior. If you want to play those decks, that's perfectly fine, but you're not going to see them in this video, as well as a couple others. Also, this guide is subject to change as the meta develops, so as there are nerfs and new expansions coming out, this guide will be updated with new information. Now, starting with the classic set. So, looking at some epics here, we have Brawl, which is a great card for Odd Warrior, Faceless Manipulator for Q-Block, Preparation for Kingsbane Rogue, Sea Giant for Even Shaman, and Shield Slam for Odd Warrior. You've also got South Sea Captain for your Pirate Warrior, Blood Mage Thalnos for your Reno Priest, and Malagos for your Malagos Druid. Now, looking at Hall of Fame, so keep in mind that there are some classic cards that got rotated to wild permanently, in some cases early, so they can't be played in standard. You cannot open them in packs though, so you need to craft them. And those 5 that are currently seeing competitive play would be Ice Block, which you see in a variety of mage decks, Molten Giant, which you see in Darkglare Warlock, you've got your Baku decks, you've got your Gen decks, and of course you've got your Leroy Jenkins, which is in a variety of aggressive decks. Now we come to the first official expansion for Hearthstone, Curse of Naxxramas. Only one card to worry about here, Loetheb, staple craft in wild, regardless of what type of decks you like to play. Looking at the Goblins versus Gnomes expansion, we have 2 cards that you want to think about crafting, Quartermaster for Odd Paladin and Mal'Ganis for a variety of Warlock decks. Looking at the Grand Tournament, we have just one card, Aviana. You want to craft Aviana if you want to play a variety of different combo druid decks. Looking at the League of Explorers, we've got 3 cards here. We've got Bran Bronzebeard, which is in a variety of combo decks, but as well as some more mid-rangey decks such as Galakrond Warrior. You've of course got Reno Jackson, which is a must-have for Reno decks. And you've got Sir Finley Merkelton, which is used in both aggressive decks, but also in control decks as a combo with Grizzled Wizard to help manipulate your opponent's hero power. Looking at Whispers of the Old Gods, we have N'Zoth the Corruptor, which is typically played in Warlock decks, but you might see it sneak into some other classes as well. And you've got Yogg-Saron Hope's End here. It's a really fun card to play, but as for the most competitive deck you're going to see it in, that would be Jade Druid. Looking at Mean Streets of gadgetzan, we have Dirty Rat, which is a must if you're playing a control deck and you want to disable combo players. You've got Kazakus, which is a must for Reno decks. You've got Kuhn the Forgotten King, which works with Aviana for combo druid decks. Patches the Pirate is a must craft if you want to play most of the aggressive decks in the wild meta. And Raza the Chained for Reno Priest. Looking at Journey to Ungoro, we have just 2 cards, Shadow Visions, which you're going to see in a variety of different priest decks, and Vilespine Slayer, which is typically played as a 1 of, sometimes a 2 of, in Odd Rogue. Knights of the Frozen Throne, this is where the Death Knights were introduced. Before looking at the Death Knights though, got to mention Gnome Feratu. Really great card to have in your slow Warlock decks. Ultimate Infestation is a powerhouse of a card used for a variety of Druid decks. Blood River Gul'dan is the first Death Knight we're going to have a look at here. This is played in Reno Lock, Cube Lock, a lot of different Warlock decks. Looking at the other 3 Death Knights you want to consider, Deathstalker Rexar is played in a variety of mid-range and control hunter decks. Malfurion the Pestilent is played in most Druid decks, but not necessarily all, so be aware of what Druid deck you want to try out. And Shadow Reaper Anduin is a must for a variety of Priest decks, especially Reno Priest. Kobolds and Catacombs, we start with Branching Paths, which is played in a variety of Druid decks. Carnivorous Cube, this is mainly for Cube Warlock, but you might want to play some more fun decks as well with it. Maybe some Cube Rogue, or who knows, maybe some Cube Death Rattle Hunter. Corridor Creeper is in here as an anti-aggro tech. Typically you'll see it played in Odd Paladin, in some cases maybe also Odd Rogue. Psychic Scream is a card that's currently seeing play in Reno Priest, not necessarily in Big Priest though, some lists are cutting it. And Reckless Flurry is seeing play in Odd Warrior. Voidlord is of course the must cheat out card combined with your Void Caller for slow Warlock decks. You've got your Kingsbane for your pirate-based aggressive Kingsbane Rogue, Skull of the Manari for your Cube Lock, and Zola the Gorgon for a variety of slow, typically Reno-style decks. Most likely you'll see Zola played in a Reno Warlock deck. Looking at the Witchwood, we have Rat Trap, which you'll want to play in your Secret Hunter. Town Crier, which is a card that is seeing play in Galakron Warrior, and Lord Godfrey, which you'll see in your Reno Lock, and maybe snuck into your Cube Lock in some cases. Moving on to the Boomsday project, we have Juicy Psych Melon, which is going to be played in your combo Druid decks. Malagos Druid is typically the most popular right now. Dr. Boom Mad Genius, which is seeing play in Odd Warrior, and Subject 9, even though it's a neutral, it typically only sees play in Secret Hunter. Another 3 legendaries to consider are the Solarium, which you'll see in Darkglare Warlock and Discard Warlock. The Stormbringer is a nice card to have in your Even Shaman deck, and Ziliax is played in a variety of decks as well, typically in slower decks, but you might see it in some mech synergistic decks as well. Now we have a look at the Rise of Shadows expansion. So Rise of Shadows introduced Wrench Caliber, which is seeing play in Galakron Warrior and in some cases Pirate Warrior as a tech against Reno decks. Archmage Vargoth, you're going to see this in your Big Priest as well as your Druid decks that run Oaken Summons. And Geppetto Joybuzz, typically it's a card you'll see in combo Druid decks, but you might see it sneak into a couple of Reno Priest lists as well. Taking a look at Saviors of Uldum, we only have 2 cards to look at here. Splitting Axe, which is seeing play in Even Shaman, which is typically a more totem synergistic build in the current meta. And of course, Zephyrus the Great, a must-to-have in any Reno deck. Taking a look at Descent of Dragons, we have Dark Skies, which is seeing play in a wide variety of different Warlock decks. You have Embiggen, which is specifically, you only want to use this in Aggro Druid. And Grizzled Wizard, this is what we mentioned earlier, combined with Sir Finley, you can manipulate your opponent's hero power. Grizzled Wizard with Sir Finley is a good tech against Reno Priest. It's also a good tech against Baku and Gen decks. The other 3 cards to look at from this expansion is Scion of Ruin and Kronk's Dragonhoof. These are both played in Galakron Warrior, and Ankar is a weapon that you're going to see in Pirate Warrior, as well as some other warrior decks as well. The Ashes of Outland expansion. This introduced Bladestorm, which you'll see in Odd Warrior, Darkglare, which you'll see not just in Darkglare Warlock, but also Discard Warlock. Moag Artificer, you'll see this in Reno Priest, and there's a lot of synergy with a variety of spells in Reno Priest where you can get a lot of extra damage in or lifesteal. And Kenrathad Ebonlock, you'll see this card typically in Discard Warlock, but you might see it in some cube lock lists as well. Moving on to more recent expansions, Scholarmance Academy. The Scholarmance Academy, there are 9 cards we're going to look at here. The first being Flesh Giant, which you'll see in Discard Lock, Secret Passage, which you'll see in both Odd and Kingsbane Rogue, Dr. Krastanov, which is a craft for specifically Odd Rogue, the weapon builds, Jandis Barov, used in a variety of decks, but the main deck you want to craft her for is Odd Rogue. Lord Barov is a card that you're going to be seeing in a wide variety of slower Warlock decks, as well as mid-range ones such as Galakron Warrior. Looking at a few more legendaries, you'll want to consider Lorekeeper Pokalt, absolutely ridiculous card, a must-have for your Reno Priest, but it also enables a lot of other decks as well. Mindrender Elusia is a card designed, well, not specifically designed, but it's used in Reno Priest. Sphere of Sapience is also used in a variety of decks, such as Reno Priest, Big Priest, Malagos Druid, just to mention a few. And Vectus, the only reason you'd want to craft Vectus is as a very powerful card for your Cube Warlock deck. And the final expansion to look at is Madness at the Darkmoon Faire. 9 cards to have a look at here, beginning with Blood of Gehun, which is a card that has made Big Priest much more powerful than it previously was. Oh My Yogg, which is a card you'll want to craft for your Odd Paladin. Rigged Fair Game, which is used in Secret Mage, but as well as a variety of other mage decks as well. And Stilt Stepper, the one and only Demon Hunter card that's been mentioned in this video. You'll want this to be in your Odd Demon Hunter list. And finally, 5 legendaries to consider crafting from the Darkmoon Faire expansion. Lothraxion the Redeemed, which you'll want to craft for your Odd Paladin. Ringmaster Watley, you will specifically only want to craft this for Galakron Warrior, and there's a lot of synergy in the deck that makes this card very strong. Ticketus, although it's greedy, it's pretty fun, and you'll want to have this in your Reno Warlock. If you don't think that's a good idea, don't craft it though, but it's there for now. Sage, Seer of Darkmoon, this is basically your Alaneth replacement in Secret Mage, and most players are finding that it is a better card than Alaneth. And the last one to mention here is Yogg Saron, Master of Fate. This card is specifically used in your Jade Druid with the original Yogg as well, because sometimes you just can't win, or for some reason maybe your opponent plays a Geist, so you just play some Yoggs and hope for the best. I hope you enjoyed listening to this crafting guide. If you have any recommendations of cards you should think should be in this crafting guide, or cards that you could think should be removed, let me know in the comments below. We can develop and improve this crafting guide together. If you want to help support this channel, you can click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and until next time, hope to see you again.